Good idea?
Thank you, Simon. Good morning, everyone. I think I would like to start from the beginning, which is what is the whole point of investment? And what is the point of national content development versus local content? It's to create economic growth, engender development, and ensure that capacity is built. And like Louis said, this takes time. And in Nigeria, we've been on this time for a very long time. So, for example, there's been the indigenization in the 70s, which failed woefully. And there's several steps by the government to privatize and to take ownership. And so we've had, through our own historical process, a lot of learning curve. And specifically in the power sector today, you'll find that we used to have one of the biggest public utility in Africa, Power Holding Company of Nigeria. And it thrived. It had its own challenges, but invariably was able to train a lot of human capital, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, electromechanical and so on and so forth. And so the capacity locally has been built over time. But I'd like to take the NERC's perspective. So we have the Nigerian regulator, the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, which up to now has ensured that we have a thriving, nascent power sector. The government of the country has empowered this regulator to ensure that they're independent. They've been staffed with very clear-headed, experienced technocrats and lawyers and engineers, and they've taken the long view to how national content development is engendered. So we can have local content, and there's smart ways to go around it. Local content means a Nigerian company. So I could be an American company, and I can just register in Nigeria, and I become a local company. But they've thought through that, and they've said, listen, why don't we have a national content program? And rather than having laws, which is the final stop, and then it becomes, is it investment for partnership, investment for exploitation? And so it's overregulation versus what really can we do where we are as a nation. And so rather than go straight into law, NERC has come up with regulation instead. And they've said, listen, we're not going to just pass this regulation. We're going to consult with the public, foreign investors, the World Bank, whoever it is that can add value. And so since last year, they came up with a regulation on national content development. And it's been on the internet. And everyone can contribute. And their approach is very similar to what Prof just said, which is 4 segments. You have technology transfer, employment and training. You have project execution, which is contracts. And then, of course, you have the transfer of skills, which is under the specialized services, legal services, financial capital market, insurance companies, and so on and so forth. And rather than come up with a regulation that says you must take Nigerians anywhere and everywhere, they've come up with a preferred approach. Where the skill exists, Nigerian companies for project execution, Nigerians, individuals, and entities must first be considered. And where these don't exist, you must go to the commission and show cause. You have to actually tell the commission and show them why you need to go and employ somebody else from outside the country. And if you can show good cause, they will grant it. So this is the approach that I understand, just as a critique on what our regulator is doing in Nigeria. And I think that from my own perspective, and also as a local investor, because it's not just investment FDI, foreign direct investment, you also have local investment. And if you look at the privatization in the Nigerian sector, majority of the investors are Nigerians. The Nigerians have raised local capital, they've acquired local debt, they've sold assets in order to raise equity, and they've bought this asset. And so majority of the power sector today, if not most of it, is owned by Nigerian companies. It's owned by Nigerian individuals. So you have local investments as well. And so in terms of marrying local investment versus foreign investment and putting those two together, it's a work in progress. And so I do agree with Luis that you can't jump the ship. It's impossible. Because then you scare people away. There's also, we must understand that in Africa, there's a lot of perception issues. And Nigeria in particular is dealing with its own. And so there are many brave investors who are braving the perception issue to come and invest in Nigeria, to come and invest in other parts of Africa. And so if we add more pressure to that and say to them, listen, in spite of whatever you might have heard about Nigeria, in spite of the perception issues, I don't care. When you come down here, your equipment must be local. Your staff at the highest levels, middle levels, must be local. That's going to create a problem. And in order to help that problem, what NERC has proposed is that you set up a joint qualification system, a database where Nigerian companies will be audited by the regulators, by the World Bank. Nigerian competent, semi-skilled and unskilled labor can also be audited, and they will put into this database. So my name is John Doe, and I'm sitting in the United Kingdom. I can go to the database, and I can search the database, and there will be categorizations in terms of skill sets. And there will be things that some skill set can do, and there will be those that they can do. So in summary, I think that studying what the Nigerian perspective has been engendered by NERC, it's a bit of a midpoint between overregulation and at the same time ensuring that there is a policy in place that actually empowers and plan to empower over time the local industry and the local competence skills. Thanks, Emma.